Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Excited, I assume.
Yeah. No, I am excited, of course. Yeah.
I'm gonna go on a limb and assume you probably couldn't sleep last night because you're so excited.
Yeah. Definitely couldn't
Like
sleep.
it's like Christmas Eve.
Oh my gosh. If I didn't sleep, that would be bad. My daughter keeps me on my toes. So, like, no sleep is not good. Oh,
How old's your
it's like
daughter?
she just turned one yesterday, actually.
Aw.
Mhm.
Little babe. What's her name?
Her name's Isabella.
I love that name.
Thank you. Yeah, she's pretty awesome. She's got a lot of energy though. She's like me. So, um,
Is that good or
yeah.
bad?
For me, it's bad because I have a lot of energy. So, like for instance, like I wake up at 4:30 every morning to wake up, and then I don't go to bed until 9:30, 10 o'clock at night because after she goes to sleep, I study for my minor. So I'm like constant. So she's constant too. So she's just like me.
My mom used to tell me that all the time. She's like, I hope you have a son just like you. And I used to think that was like a compliment, but the older I get, I realize she was probably taking a shot at me.
Maybe that's not a wish I hope for. Yeah.
What are you studying in your minor?
Spanish.
Whoa. Um,
So I
what
have,
again?
yeah, yeah. I have I'm obviously a major in English. My minor is in English as a second language, and my
Hold up. That just blew my mind. So you speak English, but you have I'm sorry, a major or a minor?
a major in English and a minor in English as a second language.
How are those classes hard?
Yeah, they're really hard. In fact, when I took them, of course, this is back in 2010, 2011, 2012, they did not, ESL or English as a second language was a new and evolving thing. So they didn't even have a
Hmm.
minor for it. So the minor courses were all 400, 500 level courses
Oh,
because they are supposed to be for a master's degree. So my courses were extremely hard and grueling. Um, but yeah, no, I loved it. And that, in fact, that's why I'm getting my Spanish minors because um, eventually, well, my husband is a first generation from Guatemala, and then
oh,
his parents, his mother only speaks Spanish. So, and then my daughter will be bilingual. So I'm like,
that's cool.
yeah, I need to know it. And from I just feel like I like language, so all the way around,
I
nice to have.
I had 2 years of Spanish in high school, and I always feel like I kind of got the short end. I mean, I didn't pay attention at all. But our Spanish teacher was from France, so it was this weird dynamic that she had a French accent trying to tell you how to enunciate your O's and your A's, and it's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, that's funny because one of the deans I was talking to, do you know the deans at our school or no?
No, I don't
Okay,
think so.
Kristen Coughlin, she is the Dean of Intervention. She was telling me yesterday, she's like, I took French and Spanish at the same time. And I was like,
Oh,
bad idea. And she was like, yeah, it was a terrible idea. It's like really confusing.
I remember we went on a cruise in high school, and I was in my second year of Spanish at the time. Again, I skated through most of my education career. I mean, I got
Oh,
like a 3.2 or a 3.3, but I didn't really try. And I
yeah,
think
that's
my
most people.
mom just kind of assumed because I was taking Spanish, I could communicate with everybody on the islands like super well. And it's like once you, and I'm sure you can appreciate this with your husband and your mother in law, if you speak it natively, they speak so fast.
So fast.
And like my mom would be like, "What'd they say?" I was like, "I think I heard bathroom." Like I don't know what I heard.
Yeah, they
it's
speak so fast. And just like we do, how we don't end our enunciations in words, they also don't either. So everything sounds like one gigantic sentence. So I'll tell my husband, like, slow down. And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounded like one word. And you said six words once he like says it slowly. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I appreciate people that can speak multiple languages because it's not easy at all. And like you can speak the textbook, but like speaking, I don't want to call it street Spanish, but like everyday Spanish, it's like another language on top of that.
Yeah, it really is. it's been hard. I'm only in my second semester. And so I took 2 years of high school as well. So, and it does not compare to college at all. I'm in my second semester. I'm like, whoa. I have to
Heard.
study. I've got like 10 to 12 assignments every single night that I have to do online. I've got,
Sounds miserable.
it's intense. It's really intense. It's so
And
much more than I thought.
I've heard too that learning English as a second language is miserable too. That English is like one of the hardest languages to learn if you're not brought up with it.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm getting my Spanish minors, because my love is teaching English of other languages, because it's such a difficult thing to do. Like I would love to be able to like get into that nitty gritty and help them with that kind of thing. That's like my goal.
So my entire job is to recruit teachers to teach here. So I feel like I shouldn't even say this, but have you ever thought about like teaching in Mexico? Like I had a friend that taught English in China, and she said it was like the most amazing experience she ever had.
Yeah, the only reason why I haven't done it yet is because my father-in-law has cancer. So we're like staying around. But like if he were to ever go into remission, or, you know, upon them passing away, because they are very, very traditional Hispanic culture where we take care of them. So
Yeah.
we probably would move to another country, honestly. Yeah,
Cool.
because he wouldn't mind. Fred would not mind being in the European Spanish territories.
I don't know why, but like, and I'm glad we're jumping right into student-led environments, but the European Spanish always feels so fancy to me, like Madrid, and like that is always, and maybe it's just because I love like James Bond and like those type of movies, and that's where that occurs. But
Yeah.
like I just picture like yachts all the time and Ferraris. I don't know why.
Oh yeah, no, I do too. I've been, so funny, crazy thing about me, I've been to like 12 different countries, and Fed's been to 27. So he's been to
Is that your husband?
Yeah, but I didn't meet him until 3 years ago. Spoiler alert.
Okay.
So I'd done tons of traveling before me, but we've gone to 4 different places together since then.
Yeah.
But his favorite place is Barcelona, like hands down. And he loves it. I have never been there, but he's been there, and he's like, it's just great.
So what are your 12? This was my initial fear when we said we're going to do this podcast. Is like, oh, I scheduled till 5. I need to actually lock in, but I don't really care about that. What are the 12 countries you've been to?
So I have been to a lot of Latin America, or Central America, sorry. So I've been everywhere there almost. Nicaragua, Honduras, El Salvador. El Salvador's scary, by the way. I haven't been to Guatemala yet, believe it or not, even though that's where Fed's from because of the lockdown. Mexico, Dominican, Puerto Rico, Japan, Belize, Costa Rica, Thailand, Peru.
You're on like a wide range of stuff though, like really Central America and then Japan.
I know. Like I haven't been to any of Europe at all. So like I stay in a bulk of places, and then I kind of, because originally I was in sales before I decided to come back to teaching, and I wanted sales, like sales things, topping other people, and I got sent to like these sales trips. So that's where Dominican and things were, and I was like, this is pretty fun. Like I think I'm going to start doing this, and now I do it hardcore.
How did you go from sales to being a teacher?
So
those seem very different.
They are. I went to Virginia, where my aunt was vice principal, to do my student teaching there, because Virginia schools are just really awesome, to be honest. Yeah. So I did my training there. And then my ex-husband, actually, he couldn't get a job there. So I had to move back to Michigan. I was proposed, got married, couldn't find a job other than Grand Rapids Public. Knew I didn't want to work there. So then I got into insurance sales, and I was like, I'll just do this until I find a job. And then I went from insurance sales, where I was making no money, just commission to, I work for
That's
Allen
tough.
Edward Homes. Work for Allen Edward Homes, selling new construction homes, to moving into a company called Stericycle. So then I was working in corporate sales with business to business, selling things like medical device sales and removal of medical things like needles, body parts, that kind of stuff.
Damn it.
So I did that for a while, and then I decided I actually hate sales. That's why I keep bouncing around. I miss teaching because my goal was always to end up back in training. And then I was like, I just need to go back to teaching. So then I came back to it.
That's not a common teacher career path story. I've heard a lot of went to
Not
sales, went to
because I tell my students I was literally making 3 times the amount I'm making now.
Yeah. Like I can't do sales. I got recruited by a couple places. You just start shooting the breeze with somebody and they're like,
Yep.
oh, you should come sell for us. You have a great personality. I can't do the whole a no is a yes. Like once they say no, it's like, all right, thanks, man. And I just can't do no is just an opportunity. It seems like a no.
I think that's the beauty of what I learned from sales, though, is I'm a really great people person because of it. And I know how to talk to people and ask them questions to understand.
That's such
more.
a lost art.
You said what?
Being able, I love the irony kind of that, of being able to talk to people and be able to listen to people. I interrupt you midway through to tell you that's such a lost art.
Oh, yeah.
The ability to listen to people and ask questions, it is like, it boggles. And we're starting to get more and more into hiring interns. So taking, college kids under our wing. The inability to communicate and talk is like, oh my, and it's not just college kids, but it's like, oh my gosh, like, what are you expecting to learn from this?
Yeah. It's a problem. It really is.
I'm sure you probably see it a lot.
But yeah, I see it all the time. In fact, I just had to have a conversation with one of my classes about it because I was about to put my head through my window because they just weren't talking at all. And I never have a problem with that. But with that class, when they don't talk is when they don't understand something, but they're also too prideful to say it, or they can't self-advocate because they don't know how to communicate at all. So it's like, it's creating this trust and communication with them so that they know that honesty also wins. Otherwise, you can't learn if you can't tell me that you don't know what you don't know. I don't know. I'm like, nonverbal cues, guys. Like, if you're not going to talk to me on this virtual thing and answer my questions, I'm either going to A, think you're being disrespectful and then you're not there, or B, you don't know what you're doing and you're not telling me. I don't know.
And like, I don't know. I'm a big believer that social media has kind of ruined our inability to communicate with each other, even though it's like 80% of my job. But it is like everybody, even like during the election and stuff, that like you only got so used to just talking to people how you did on Twitter. And it's like, Twitter's not real life, guys. Like, that's an escape. That's not how you talk to people at all.
Yeah, I actually brought that up with my kids because we did a unit where we talked about argumentative essays. And I was like, they're like, this is hard to do. And I was like, yeah, you're right, it is. I was like, you want to know why? Because not even our presidents and our candidates can have a conversation together. Everything is over Twitter, or it is segmented sentences, and it's all broken up, and they don't even know how to argue anymore.
It's funny you say that because I've had a lot of conversations with that. Like, I don't care where anybody's at politically. I don't think I don't care if you think Trump is a god or the Antichrist, but he embodied, and even to your point that Biden, once they kind of ran each other, they embodied the social media culture where everything was a soundbite. Like, neither one of them ever got into policy, but you're looking to hit that sweet spot on Twitter where it just gets going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, the barbs back and forth aren't even that good, but what are you actually trying to say? And it was this weird case study of this is how we communicate now.
I literally will have to get your cell phone number because there is this crazy video of this guy who is like doing as funny as it is, a podcast essentially, but he is talking to this man who is basically saying that Trump that from Trump and what he thinks from here on out, the presidents who are going to be elected in are, I don't know how to say this the way that he said it, but like a shadow or personality of the people who enjoy what they produce on social media.
So it's fascinating you say that, because I was talking to my mom and dad about this, and I'm not super political. I just like, drama's not the word I'm going for, but it was just kind of fun to watch, like just everything going, especially in 2016 during that candidacy, and then this 2020. I mean, the world was ending. Everybody needed a little reprieve.
Yeah.
But that's what I was telling my mom and dad. Like, like I said, regardless if you hate or love Trump, he has changed politics forever.
Oh, yeah.
Like, where does the Republican Party go now? Do they trot out Marco Rubio and his very, prepared responses? And it's like, there's a reason that those were the highest rated debates of all time. It's because people wanted to see the mudslinging, they wanted to see the insults, and then you have to remember, holy crap, this is for the presidency. But
Yeah.
I don't know, Republican and Democrat, how you go back from that. Like, how do you generate this type of excitement for somebody that is measured and probably qualified to be the president, but it just seems so boring now.
Yeah.
I don't envy that at all.
No, I don't either. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I missed the presidency debates because I don't remember what I had going on. I did have something, probably Spanish, to be frank. I don't know. It's probably a test, I think. And my history teacher was like, "Save yourself. Like, don't watch it. Like, it's a sad story. It's not even anything."
2016 was fun. Like, those debates were pretty comical. Like, you had Hillary, kind of the establishment, and they're just trading barbs. But like, you had the one where he was following her around the stage, and then like all of these kind of comical things. But you're right. 2020 was kind of like, ugh, this is not.
Wow. Yeah. Ridiculous.
So I know nothing about student-led environments. Is there anything specific you want to hit? And I'm not worried about us being able to have a conversation. But is there anything specific that you want to dive into to make sure we hit on?
I have a ton of stuff written down, so
Okay.
I really could go anywhere with this.
Okay.
It doesn't matter to me, honestly. I don't know how you want to start. If you want to start with questions, if you want me to just.
So how it normally goes is I will butcher the intro probably 10 times. I have no idea why. Once the conversation gets going, it's very smooth. But for whatever reason, setting it up, introducing you, what school are you at?
Knapp Charter.
Nat? Oh, that's right. I have butchered my own name before on the intros, and for whatever reason, it's like once we get roll, it's fine. The conversation's just like this. But I will probably set it up with, today we're talking to Alexa Simpson, teacher at what do you care? Do you want the grade?
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, 8th grade English at Knapp Charters. Yeah, that's fine.
English at Knapp Charter Academy. We're talking about student-led. Is there a buzzword for this? Student-led.
I would just say student-led classroom.
Classrooms. Love that. And then I'll probably set it up with, this is something that's very popular. You can ask a bunch of different people how you get it, blah, blah, blah. But to you, what does this look like? And then depending on what your overview is, we'll just be off and running and then creating magic.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Humbly as possible, obviously.
Yes.
No cockiness.
That
All right, we will fire up the microphone. We'll get all plugged in here.
Works for me.
Microphone, speaker.
Did you tell your students that you're going to be on a podcast?
I didn't. I told one of them at the end of the day, because I have like 5 or 6 kids that aren't in my homeroom, but they come in here at the end of the day because I have virtual for homeroom. And I was like, you guys are going to have to leave at 3:20 because I've got some things I got to get done before 4 o'clock. And she was like, well, what do you have to do? I have to do a recording. I'm going to be in a podcast. And she's like, a podcast? And I was like, yeah. She's like, for what? And I was telling her. And she was like, oh, Miss Simpson. And I was like, yeah.
We did one a couple months ago. And the teacher beforehand was like, "Is it okay if I tell my students?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't care." And she's like, "Honestly, sometimes I think they don't think I'm very cool, so this is gonna be me telling them I'm really cool." All right, I don't care.
That's hilarious. Um, no, my kids, oh, I would say my kids like me. Like I've got kids who are like obsessed with me and they
Yeah.
like to be in my room all the time. And then I've got kids who are like, it's English class, but I don't really think I
Yeah.
have any kids who like don't like me, honestly.
Yeah. That's got to
Last
be an interesting balance if, that's something as a teacher that you're concerned about, that like, how do you handle when kids don't, maybe that's an episode, I don't know, but how do you handle when your students don't like you?
I really think that that's an episode of you're a teacher, it's your job,
Thank
they're
you.
not your
You know how
friend.
many people I've talked to that said, "Oh, they don't like me." Who cares? Like I don't remember my 8th grade English teacher, Mrs. Plivwitz, even remotely caring how I felt about stuff.
No, 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 no. I feel like a teacher who cares about if students like them is a teacher who's insecure. And then at that point, that is the difference between what makes men boy or what makes boys men. That's how I feel.
Uh, do
You can either be a boy in the game of a teacher, or you can be a man. I don't know.
I I've been mentoring this, I don't know, 22-year-old somebody here. They need, their director came to me and they said, we need help with them. We need them to be more confident. They're very good at their job, but they just lack confidence. I was unaware, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I flirt the line between confidence and cockiness on a daily basis.
Mhm.
I did not know how exhausting the world of insecurity was, though. As you kind of take them under your wing, and it's just like, dude, chill out, man. Like, pump the brakes. Like, let's take a breath and let's kind of reassess where we're at here.
See, I don't do well with that either. Like my husband calls me, he literally just said this 2 nights ago. He was like, Alexis, like you are a lion and insecure people to you are a lamb. And like you are not I have no patience for it. And I'll tell you why I don't have patience for it. The reason is because I was a lamb. I
Mm.
was. And I did the 3 years of hard work in counseling to not be a lamb anymore. So it's irritating to me when lambs come to me and ask me specifically what I'm doing in my classroom. And I tell said lambs what I do, and then they complain and still don't do it, and then come back and re-ask again the same questions. Like that's the kind of lamb stuff I don't have the patience for. Like I will no more.
Forget the podcast. Let's just flip this on live and let's just let this go where it goes. Lions, lambs. I think we can get better engagement on that than we can just talking about student-led classrooms.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
the stuff I want to listen to.
oh my gosh, that's one day you guys should do like a random podcast where you like after you do all these podcasts with these different teachers, you should take certain personalities and be like, and let's just go into the nitty-gritty of teaching. Like what and just make a humorous one. And
I
like
would love that.
for all those first year teachers who are like, what could happen? Like, let me tell you what's gonna happen.
That's maybe my favorite part. Also, the microphone should sound amazing in like
2, 1. Does it sound a lot?
Yeah, it sounds like not muffled at all.
Okay, cool. So microphone H6, speakers, AirPods. One of my joys is presenting at NTS, the New Teachers Summit. And, this is, we've got podcast video, a lot of resources. Listening to them and how they're going to change the world cracks me up. Like I'm glad they think that and they have this energy about them, but it's, my mom's a teacher. My sister's a teacher. I work with teachers every day. You guys are in for a rude awakening.
Oh boy.
and I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna do this. Okay. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah. I tell new teachers all the time, I'm like, listen, one day you will do that. You're absolutely right. You will do that. But don't do that. Because what you're gonna do is burn yourself out. Like do what you need to the first year. Build a classroom setting in which everyone in the school knows who's boss.
Yep.
Then move on from there. Otherwise, you have nothing.
And good luck telling 22, 23-year-old that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
These
Yeah.
young kids, I tell you what.
Whippersnappers.
I know, a bunch of lambs out there on the prairie.
Yeah. That's funny.
All right, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Now I won't be able to see you, which is fine. It might look like I'm not paying attention. I just try not to move a ton because then the Zoom picks up me, which is just kind of annoying. But I think we're good.
All right. I'm ready.
Let's butcher this 9 times, then get into it.
Okay, perfect.
Welcome to the Teacher's Lounge. Today we are talking to Mrs. Simpson, 8th grade teacher at Knapp. That's like 10 minutes from the service center, right?
Yeah. 10 minutes.
That's what
Yeah.
I thought. Well, there's attempt 1. Welcome to the Teacher's Lounge. Today we're talking to Mrs. Simpson, 8th grade teacher at Knapp Charter Academy, and we're talking about student-led environments. This is something that I hear a lot about in the teaching world. It's something that is very important, but I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know a ton about this topic. It's something I know that a lot of teachers are striving for. And Mrs. Simpson is something that I've wanted to have on the podcast for a while because what she does in her classroom is she really sets up this environment. And I was excited to kind of pick her brain on, what she does in her classroom, and how other teachers can kind of take from her experience to kind of build in this student-led environment. So I guess first things first, and this might be kind of a broad question to start out with, but to you, what does the student-led environment in a classroom look like?
So you're right. This is a definition and a topic that is tossed around a lot. I feel like it's the same, like 5 or 8 years ago, differentiation was another big one, and everyone went gung-ho on it. And I think people drive themselves crazy trying to figure out what both of them are. And really, a student-led classroom is just exactly what it is. It's student-led. And every year that student-led classroom changes based on the type of children that you have, whether it's their skills, their personalities, or just how they work together as a group, if they're friends or not. And really what you're striving for in a student-led classroom is for students to have a self-advocacy where they can learn how to be motivated to learn the information, but also how to learn the information. And it's setting up a room and assignments where they're able to do that.
So there's a lot to unpack there. I think your definition was spot on. The first thing that kind of stuck out in my mind in your answer is this: it's not a one-size-fit-all approach. There's not a template to creating the student-led environment. When you mention that, each class might look different or each year might look different, how do you create that? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, the first thing you have to do is each year with a new set of students, you have to establish yourself as a teacher in a classroom. So what I mean by that is there has to be a sense of trust and communication between the teacher and the students. And sometimes that can take a short amount of time, and sometimes that can take a long amount of time. I can tell you that this year it has been a lot easier to achieve because so many students know me from last year or know of me. So there is an understanding as to what kind of teacher I am and who I am. But it is creating this open dialogue with the kids about what they want their classroom to look like. How is it going to feel? How is it going to look? What are the rules going to be? And what will the layout look like? Because that has to be interesting to kids. Now, this is where the part I said before becomes important, where each school year will look different. And that's why you can't focus on the perfection of a student-led classroom to the T of this and then this and then this, because we're in COVID. You can't organize your room a specific way. So you have to get creative with what you do. But once you establish that communication of like what the kids want and how they want it to feel and look, you make sure that the kids know your expectations as far as rules, because there cannot be a student-led classroom without kids who are willing to talk. And if they don't feel safe in talking without the fear of being bullied or ridiculed by peers, or in some cases a teacher, none of that is capable of happening.
So when you say, the look and feel is something that they want, are you simply asking them?
Specifically, yeah. I mean, with kids, you have to be straightforward, but asking them, what are some things that would help you guys learn? So I guess, for instance, one of the major things I ask my kids is, how do you learn? Do you need to be up and moving around? Are you a fidgeter? Do you like to listen to music? And last year in my classroom, I had a place where kids could sit to be alone. There was a place where kids were allowed to go and work with music. There was a place where you could work in groups. So it's asking all of them as a collective unit, maybe through a survey or even just through open dialogue, how you guys learn best. And hey, if the room were set up in a way that could encourage you to work with a partner or to feel more open to speak on the topic that we're talking about in class, how would that setup look for you?
That is fascinating. I remember being in 8th grade English, and it was so regimented that, and I liked my 8th grade English teacher, but everything was very process based. You did step 2 because that was after step 1. The classroom was set up this way. We learned this way. We read Shakespeare because that's just what we did. But the environment that you're creating is so much more inclusive and caters to the students' needs. That's got to make them feel valued at a level that they're probably not feeling everywhere.
Yeah, I would agree with you. It is something that has to be built though, right? Because unfortunately, you do have to start with a regimen. This is what we're going to do. We're going to come into class every day and do this, 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 and this. And then you start slowly branching out with those things. But yes, as you had said, once you are to the point where you're branching out and you can start challenging the kids a little bit more, they do feel more heard. In fact, I've even had students who have told me that the reason why they come to my class at the end of the day to talk and why they are so much more respectful in my class versus sometimes I even had a student say versus at home is because said child feels heard.
And that, 8th grade is that's a tough age for anybody. You're going through all sorts of, changes in your life, and it's just a difficult age, but having an environment set up for them and, to your point, a teacher that allows them to kind of be in this environment, that's got to make them feel good. So you mentioned that, at the beginning of the school year, yes, it is regimented. And then you kind of allow this, open dialogue to kind of figure out what the classroom should look and what it should feel like. How do you know when the classroom is ready for that dialogue, when it's ready for your students to kind of engage in this, these conversations with you of, I need a corner where I can go and listen to music while I work, or I need to be standing instead of sitting? How do you know your classroom is ready for that?
How do you know when you are financially ready to have a baby? All of them are really great questions. You don't. The reality of it is what you have to do is, people are, how do I explain this? People are looking to impress. People are always looking to make someone proud of them. And if you have the right relationship with the kids, and I think most importantly, class leaders that you've established earlier on, they help facilitate the classroom with you. And I think that that's my biggest success is the answer to your question being, you're ready when when you have established class leaders and they are on board to be class leaders for you, and they know what your goals are. So I have class leaders for all of my in-person classes right now. And they know the expectations, they know the goal. They can come to me with questions, they can come to me with ideas, and we implement those. And once you have those people in place and they're the right people, to slowly start implementing ideas in. Like, people call it the brown nose students, but it's not, because they are held much higher than other students. But students start to realize that, like, if they kind of follow on with them, oh, my teacher will let me do more. So it's not this idea of brown nosing, though in their eyes it is. It's an idea of, if you do what's expected of you, not to a measurement, but just to stay on task, there are rewards that come with it.
So I would not have ever been classified as someone who would have been categorized as a brown noser, or, somebody that you would confide in when it comes to your classroom. But if I'm, 22, 23, 24, fresh out of college, just finished my student teaching, and this is my first year going into a classroom, how do I identify who these students might be that can kind of help guide the rest of the classroom, that says, yep, they are ready for this conversations. I come to these students come to me, and, kind of set the pulse for the classroom?
They are your participators right away. They are the people that when you are in your first unit and you are still not able to scan a room, and it's funny, I scan my room while I say it, but when you're not able to scan a room because you're sweating and wondering what you're going to say next, they're the ones that feel so bad for you that they raise their hand and say something. It's those kids typically.
And, honestly, maybe I'm having a tough time identifying with those kids, or identifying those kids because I was not that kid. But that's, to your point, that in every classroom, those students exist. And it is, from the sounds of it, it is identifying them and then having them work for you. Not work for you. That sounds terrible.
No, you're right. Child labor. No, I'm just kidding.
The nice part about this is I have executive power when it comes to editing. Well, not even executive power. I'm the one who edits it. So any potential landmines we stumble into will never see the light of day.
I think that's a funny one, man.
Oh, you want me to leave child labor in? Okay. We'll leave. I mean, I'm sitting here in a Nike zip up. I don't know if I'm really one to talk when it comes to child labor. That's fascinating. Honestly, this has got so much more depth than I thought it was going to. And I don't even know where we want to take it next, because I love kind of the idea of identifying students.
I was actually going to go more on that, because now I'm thinking back to myself, like, it's not always the people that raise their hand too. I think that those are your first, I think as you create your road for your classroom, in a student-led classroom, you first have to pave it, right? And I think the fastest way to pave your road is to look for easy indicators. And that easy indicator is someone who's willing to raise their hand, okay? Now, it has to go further than that, though. You start to thank them for participating. You start to reward their participation, even if it's wrong, by saying, that was a really good idea. And forgive me for using your error, if you will, is what I say to them, because everyone needs to learn from it. But I'm so thankful that you did. And it's this building up. And I see how they react to that. And then thankfully, as that happens, more kids are willing to get out a little bit more. And then from there, you start kind of watching those people who are participators. The next step is to see what groups they put themselves in when they work in groups together. And there's usually that one loudmouth who raised their hand every day, no matter what, from the first day of school. And I'm thinking of one particular girl right now who I just love. And in fact, I'm going to let her watch this video and she's going to be like, that's me, Miss Simpson. I'll be like, that is you. Who can corral the whole class. But then, to my surprise, one of the people who doesn't hardly talk at all is another class leader, because he is a different kind of role model. So what I'm trying to say is that it is something that evolves over time, and it's role models of people who can model what you want in their classroom. Like my loudmouth is the one who is never afraid to be wrong, and she will always raise her hand. I have another one who is another loudmouth, who is afraid to say, I have no idea what you're talking about. She's the I'm always right. He's the I have no idea what you're talking about. The other role model is the one who is like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to pretend like I'm going to figure it out because I have to turn it in. That's him. And then I have another girl who is the role model of, I always get my work done and I always know what I'm doing. So I have this perfect square of model students that are for each type of learning category in my classroom.
And I'm so glad that, you kind of went into depth of finding these indicators that, it's not always, Mr. or Miss Straight A, always looking for extra credit, teacher's pet, because I just think of myself as an 8th grader, and right or wrong, those were normally the jokes we were making were about, that student that, and now you want me to follow them. I'm glad that there's that distinction that these role models in the classroom, or these students that you look to kind of set the tone in the classroom, aren't necessarily always the ones that are happy to be there in the front row. Hi, Mrs. Simpson, I'm here. Can we start our lesson? I have my pencils and my ruler. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important qualification that, at the end of the day, you're trying to build a student-led environment. You're not trying to build a straight A environment. You're not trying to build a teacher's pet environment. How important is that, incorporating all levels of the student while you're building this environment?
Like you're incorporating each different type of learning level for each student while you're doing this?
Yeah, every type of student, every type of learning level, whether that's behavioral issues. And I guess the reason I ask that is, if you're only focused on, quote unquote, the smart kids, will there be a lack of buy-in?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's extremely important that you, and I guess that's kind of where the, another trigger word, differentiation, comes into play, that a lot of first-year teachers hear that word being tossed around a lot. And I honestly get a little bit frustrated, even with myself. Like my own supervisor will be like, you talk about differentiation all the time. And I'm like, I know I do. And I even hate hearing the word, but in reality, it is so important, because every kid is at a different level. And it goes back to what I had said before. If a child feels so overwhelmed with material or with the goal, because every kid, every person in this world wants to impress someone, right? So if a kid feels like they are not going to be able to meet a goal or to get somewhere to impress, what are they going to do? Any person would do the same thing. They're going to shut down. They're going to stop right away. So if you can't give them some sort of carrot to at least reach toward to get, they're not going to do it. So I think that that's the part that is so overwhelming for teachers when doing this. And I'll be truthful, even for myself, it's very daunting. Projects are a lot harder to come up with, because you got to create 4 to 6 different kinds of projects for these kids to be able to show you that they grasp the information and can demonstrate that for you through different projects and through different assignments. And it is hard, but the reward is huge. There are so many kids who are so talented. And this year, more than any year before, I have gotten kids feedback on topics and group discussion that I am blown away with. And I love that because I've had to say more times this year to kids, wow, I did not even think about that. Like, that is a great point. Or I should have put that up on the board, you guys. Like, I didn't even think of that. Like, I'm sorry. And it creates such a bigger relationship in the classroom where my students say sorry to me all the time. I'm sorry, Miss Simpson. I didn't want to come to class today. I'm sorry, Miss Simpson. I just wasn't paying attention to the time. Like, they're just so forward with me. And when a child feels like it's okay to not understand something right away, or it's okay to not get an A on something, they work harder for it because they know it's okay to make mistakes. And that's why it's so important to also understand every single one of your students on an individual basis, where you do student-led conferencing with them and understand their goals. It is not fair to expect all of your students to say, I'm going to give the whole class a reward if we get to this percentile. EL students, special education students, kids who just don't care, and they're like, 2.5 is good enough for me, right? Like, what is the motivation in that? It takes more work, but you have to step back and say, what if you guys just all did a half percentage better than what you did before? Obtainable goals. Know your audience. I just feel like, you hear that word all the time, right? You hear it in social media. You hear it on TV. You hear it in debates. Know your audience. Well, how are we going to get them to do stuff?
How, and I just think about this from, a newer teacher's perspective. How difficult is it to give up some of that control and turn over some of this responsibility to your students for the first time?
It's so hard. Like, I laugh because I am such a different teacher than I was even last year. I will be right up front with you guys. I came to this school the first year here last year. And I was told, and anyone who is watching this that is a teacher that knows Knapp Charter, that's been here for a while, Knapp, it was tough. Oh yeah, it was tough. I came in there like a bull. I'm gonna they're gonna listen to me. And I was pregnant too, so I had a lot of hormones going on. And my students even to today will say, oh, man, Miss Simpson, like, you were mean last year. Or they'll say things like, we heard you were mean, but you're not mean at all. And I'm like, well, I was mean, because it's that control. You think that you gain more when you are controlling, but you're not. In fact, you're losing more. You are working hard. You're not working smart.
And, I think back to, a newer teacher, and, they just finished up their education program, their student teaching, graduating from college, and, they've got all these different perspectives and, advice that they're getting from all of these teachers. But the one I doubt they're hearing a lot of is giving up control. And that's gotta be a tough pill to swallow, standing in front of the classroom for the first time. You've got 25, 30 students looking at you and think, once I build these relationships, I need to turn some of this over to them. That's gotta feel, especially from a student perspective, that's gotta feel good for them that their opinion is valued and they feel like this is their classroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, even when I say their classroom, that almost sounds weird that you're saying it's, an eighth graders that, it's their classroom, but that's got to make them just feel so much more engaged in the class, in the curriculum, kind of this classroom culture piece, that we're all kind of in this together.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. I don't ever remember stuff like that when I was a kid. Maybe that's why I didn't care.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe. My classrooms weren't like that either. They weren't as a kid at all. Mm-mm.
Why do you think that changed?
I really think if I had to put my finger on it, I think it's a lot of what you just said. A lot of teachers also probably realizing that they didn't enjoy their classroom. With teachers, it's one spectrum or the other. It's I had the best teacher ever, and I just loved this subject, or I had a parent who was a teacher. It's this side, or it's I hated school and I got good enough grades to play my sports, and then I went to college, and like I was on literally academic probation for my ACT score. Okay, going to college because I hated school that much. And then I go and take English classes and start figuring things out. And I'm like, you know what? These professors just tick me right off. Like, why are they not teaching us anything? Like, I don't understand. And then I started digging into it more. And I'm like, that's because they don't even know how to teach it. They're just going to get their PhD, sassy comments like that. And then it rolls back around to like, I want something better for that. I don't remember being taught in a way that I ever enjoyed. And this is the classroom that we had. You walked in, you were silent. You didn't say anything. You read out of a book, or you listened to a movie recording, or you did all this and you just like learned on your own. And I have so many parents, I shouldn't say that. I have a few parents that say, well, my mom was an English teacher, or my mom was a social studies teacher, and the curriculums are so difficult now. Yeah, and they should be, because what we're trying to teach our children to do is something that they don't know how to do anymore. And that is how to talk, how to be a self-thinker, and how to know what they need. It's something that we've lost. And some of that stuff we never even had before because no one talked about their emotions. So I think it's a categorization of so many different things.
It's funny you hit on the emotion piece. My dad and I are very close, but neither one of us will say we love each other. My mom makes us give each other hugs when we leave. It's just kind of funny that's, and my grandpa's the same way, but in my grandpa's generation, everybody was like that. My dad's generation, most people were like that. My generation, people are willing to talk about their feelings more. It's an interesting kind of dynamic that's, I think it's changed over the past 30 or 40 years.
I would say that is a big dynamic that changed a lot for my classroom. Like showing emotion to your kids. I think a lot of female teachers, and especially a lot of male teachers, feel very afraid of this, but I think there's a very fine line that is needed in a classroom. These kids are with us for 8 hours a day. Like, we are mom and dad to a certain extent, and that there is a reason why when you give them attitude, or when you constantly have this panic or frustration, they do too. It's because they're vibing off of you. And if you don't feel comfortable to be emotionally connected with them, or to have some sort of physical touch with a child, because that's okay and you don't have to, you do have to show them things that a mother or a father would do. Like, you have to tell them that you appreciate them. You have to tell them, hey, I missed you in class yesterday. You have to say to them, I'm sorry, or, all those kinds of things. Or, hey, sweetheart, like, how are you doing today? Or, hey, I really need you to listen. Okay, I really need you to be in this. And I would say that made a huge impact in my classroom. Like, even with some of the kids that I have a very difficult time with, because there are a couple kids that, they're hard. But when I do make sure to keep my cool and keep that mom persona, where I give them, appropriate pet names, sweetheart, those kinds of things. And when I ask them to do something, they might not do it, but they turn down and at least stop doing what they were doing.
I think what's really interesting about this concept of student-led environment is, when you hear about it, just right off the cuff, you just think the students are making all the decisions. I want this, this is how I want to be taught. But this concept of student-led environment, just how much is required of you to provide this environment? Like, that's one that I think a piece to this that kind of gets lost in the name of student led. Like you're building this environment, you're providing these, emotional connections. Can this student led environment happen without you taking, kind of taking this role of setting up this environment?
It's a loaded question. I say a loaded question because as a teacher, I was saying this in my head as you were asking the question. As a teacher, I view myself as a manager or as a supervisor, right? Could a manager and a supervisor not be there and things still run the way they should? Yes. But is there going to come a point where the manager does need to be there? Yeah, of course, right? For paying out the salaries, doing the hours, ordering things, whatever that is. So I think how I want to answer that is just like that. Am I trying to create a classroom in which my kids work while I'm standing in the corner watching, kind of just perusing around? Yes. So that they don't need me in that moment. But do they need me to facilitate that environment for them? Yeah, they need that manager to be there to give that to them.
And that, I think, kind of what we're just hitting on. I wish there was another, set of buzzwords that we could call this. Not necessarily, it's providing this environment. It's empowering your students. But, like I said, this word student led just makes it seem like you're just allowing them to kind of take charge and things like that.
Yeah.
Is there a way to, and this is an obviously loaded question, but is there a way to kind of measure the impact that this environment has on a particular student or groups of students?
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of ways. I'll tell you the ways that I measure it. So I measure it in of course, with my students' writing. All right, so I look at their writing from one time to the next, or even just conversation. First one I look at is analyzing how their writing is moving on. Two, are they consistently participating or working in the class when they should be? And then it goes into those assessment type things, right? Are their interims going up? Are their quiz scores getting better? Are they critically thinking, and all of those more? And I think that that's the real way to analyze it. And that is how I analyze it, at least. And in the way that I have been doing it, every single interim or state tests, I have had kids move up half a percentage, so like 1.5 to a 2.0, or they're in passing proficiency now. I didn't have anyone drop, and I had, out of 60 students, I only had 4 stay the same. So,
and I think, I'm not the first person to say that, everything in the classroom is measurable, and, some will make the argument we measure too much in the classroom.
yeah.
But it's interesting to me that you use test scores to measure the effectiveness of this environment, but also, some of those personal indicators. Are they more, engaged in the lesson, engaged with their classmates? That, to me, we talk a lot about, National Heritage Academies, but really, the education industry as a whole, about educating the entire student or educating the whole student. Providing this environment, to me, seems like you are allowing that to happen, right? You're providing these emotional connections. You're providing, from a grading standpoint, grades are increasing, but also these personal connections. Is that something that you thought would happen when you started down this path of creating a student-led environment in your classroom?
No, no, not at all. In fact, last year when I was trying to focus on building relationships, we're told as new teachers, it doesn't matter if you go to a new school or if you are a first year teacher, they tell you in order to get respect, you have to earn respect. And it's always about finding how to earn that respect and how to get that respect. And once you have that, like, you're going to have this classroom. That's not true. Okay. Especially when you work with at-risk youth. It's a whole different breed. Mix at-risk youth with middle school, and you've got a really awkward creature. Okay. I think that this year when I sat back and said, I got to slow down. I got to figure out how to read my kids better. And I got to figure out how to nonverbal cues and their own cues of how they respond to a relationship with me. Do they stand far away from me when they talk? Do they come into my zone? Do they need to see me every morning? If they're mad, do I need to stand away so that we're the same height? Do I need to sit down? Do I need to reassure? And when I started understanding that and really focusing on and slowing down my day to take in those special moments with certain kids, that's when I saw. So yes, it's extremely important and moves mountains when you have this personal connection with a kid. And it doesn't mean that you have to have this seriously intimate connection. It could be just that you are showing them that you want to understand where they're coming from. And if they help you understand just a little bit, you can help them reach whatever goal it is that they want to get. It's a lot, yeah.
And you said something in your answer that really kind of stuck out to me. The importance of slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
I think, everybody that's been in a classroom, whether you're a teacher or a student, the school day flies by. There's so much going on. But this concept of slowing down and being intentional with these relationships, how important is that to look at the school day as, opportunities to build on these relationships or connect with these students instead of let's get through third hour, let's get through fourth hour, let's get through fifth hour, but really being intentional of, Sally's having a tough day. Let me see if I can connect with Sally and figure out why. There might be something else going on.
I mean, you're asking how important it is or how to do it?
I don't really even know what I'm asking.
Okay, no, I'll just expand on it then. I mean, the slowing down aspect is, I can't even explain to teachers how important it is for you to understand your lesson plan, because that is where you can slow down. One really great thing that I love about National Heritage Academies is that English has set up this really great curriculum in which we always focus on modeling a skill, and then we do a model practice, and then we do, a model show, model practice, and then they practice on their own. And there's questions or ideas for questions built into it. And that really helps me be the best teacher, where I feel like I can use my mind at 100%, because I don't have to fill my mind up with like worrying about, did I ask this question, whatnot. I can write my notes down. I can have these questions ready, because that is when you have your discussion questions ready for a student-led classroom where you get students discussing with you, it's when you can slow down the lesson and watch them. And what I mean by that is you can impact a child in the middle of a lesson without taking time out of your day to even talk to them. You can read their face and see that they're confused or that something's not right. And what I love to do is when I teach in the classroom, I am able to observe every student. Believe it or not, you can probably tell from my energy, I walk around, I circle around my kids. Some kids look confused, or maybe they haven't really been reactive at all. So I will come right next to them. I put my hand on their shoulder. I'll say, you know, like I'll be like, right, Emma, and I'll say their name. And they're just like, oh yeah, you know, and it's this constant, I see you here. And that slowing down of feeling confident in your lesson to where I got this so much that I also got you, the students, that does a lot.
It's funny you say that, and this has nothing to do with teaching, but sports is a big, you know, my life for the majority of it kind of revolved around sports, but that was always the big thing. When you got pulled up to the next level, slowing down, you know, sophomore on varsity, everything moves so fast, and you constantly get told over and over, the game has got to slow down. And you're like, what are you talking about, man? These dudes are huge,
Yeah,
and they're coming
let's
at me full
go.
speed. But to your point, by the time you're a junior or senior, everything slows down, you know, your preparation, your confidence. Is there, you know, I know you said you had a lot of stuff kind of written down. Cause I think we're hitting on a ton of good stuff. It's taken us places I didn't really expect it to. So I want to make sure that we hit on some of the stuff that you prepared as well. It's funny that, again, I go back to the fact that none of this sounds student led. Like, it's all the environment that you're providing.
It's funny too, because you know, it's just to let you know, we've touched on like almost literally everything in my
Okay.
notes. So it's awesome. But it's funny that you say student led too, because I want to humble myself for a second. I actually had a student that was in my virtual class today, and I swear to you, I'm not even joking about this. He was talking about how he had a bunch of missing assignments, and he's coming back to in person. And he's like, I had 131 English assignments. And I was like, there's no way you did, because we were only on lesson 9. And we haven't even done 9 assignments, you know, because I do not do assignments every day. Okay, there are other ways to assess your students than doing assignments every day. So I'm like, no, there isn't. He was like, you know, I'm just going to do bad when I get back. He's very smart, by the way. He's just lazy. So, and we have a good relationship. So he's online, and he's like, they make fun of my video. If you guys ever get a chance to go to Nat Charter, my video, my students tell me all the time, where are you? What was wrong? Who was watching you? I guess I look scared in my video. But he's like, I'm looking at your video right now, and then I'm reading about your classroom. It's interesting because it says student led. Huh, that's funny. And I'm like that's exactly what kids even think it is. They think it is where the students get to decide. It's like, well, no, it's not that way. And that's what I try to tell my kids all the time. Even, this is kind of jumping ship just a little bit. I even had a child making racist comments in my classroom just a couple of days ago. She was using the N-word and thought it was appropriate for her to be able to do that because she says she's allowed to use it, right? And what I had to explain to her is, I had to say to her, hey, sweetheart, I'm not taking that word from you, and no one's taking that word from you. I want you to understand that. However, I do want you to realize this. This is a classroom. How long do you have to be in a classroom school for? Oh, 7:40 to 3:40. Like, yep. Like, what's interesting about those time periods? It's like a shift at a job, right? Like, it's what I have to do too. Like, my job is to be a teacher. Your job is to be a student. Well, we don't get paid. And then I made a joke. Well, neither do I. So anyway, I said to them, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. What I'm trying to tell you is that this is your job. This is my job. And when you guys get to be older, you will realize that in a job setting, everyone deserves to feel comfortable. And we cannot say things or do things that make people feel uncomfortable. And if they do, we have to learn how to be the type of person who can work around making people feel comfortable, keeping our own values and morals in place. And like, now I lost my train of thought where I was going with all of this. What was I talking about before? Help me.
Slowing down. You said you're going to jump ship, racist comments. I don't remember what I asked.
Yep. See, look at, we digress. This is what happens. I lose my train
Rabbit
of thought.
holes.
Rabbit holes, but it was a good one. It was going to come straight back around to Oh, back to the student life. There we go. That's what.
Oh
it is.
yeah.
You have to. It's not a student-led classroom because, like my student said, you're not like, oh, it's not student-led because they don't get to make the decisions. That's not what I'm teaching you guys. What I'm teaching you guys is this is your job, and in a job, you don't get to make your own decisions. That's the reality of life. What you have to, you want to make a change. If there's not a map, a road for you in your job, make a ladder. Figure out how to get around it, but you got to do it respectfully. And someone is always going to be above you. Okay. Even when you are self-employed, it's the government. Okay. So it's this idea of being okay with still being told no, even when you have the control. And that's what student-led classroom is. It's so much bigger than creating a fun environment for kids. It's life lessons. And they don't even realize it.
Mm. And, you know, to your point that, you know, some of these lessons can kind of be taught on the fly, you know, with or without the curriculum. You know, how important is that to incorporate real life situations as a teacher to a student?
A lot. I mean,
And I just think, like, you know, it's interesting too when you kind of talk to NHA teacher in really nice area, and then you talk to NHA teacher in terrible area, and they'll give you two different answers. But the ones in terrible areas will tell you, I'm not just teaching math, I'm teaching life.
yeah,
And that always to me is fascinating.
I would certainly have to stand by that statement. I am not just teaching English, I'm teaching life. I have a lot of at-risk youth here. And I love it. I said it in my interview and I'll say it again today. I love middle school and I love at-risk youth middle school. And the reason why is because everyone says that they love toddlers because they're sponges. They can learn so much. Middle schoolers are also sponges.
Mm.
It is huge. They are learning who they're going to be right now. They're going into high school. They're going to decide, are they going to care about their GPA? What sports are they going to go into? What kind of friends are they going to have? Who are they going to involve themselves in? What kind of stuff, stuff meaning like comments and making fun of and bullying are they going to take before they're going to learn to stand up for each other or themselves? And as a middle school teacher, I feel like you can't say that you don't teach life because you are helping transition them into the biggest part of their life.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, they're only a couple of years away from being able to buy anything their heart desires too. What kind of,
Exactly.
what kind of person are you going to be then? If I'm a newer teacher, how do I start this process of building a student-led classroom?
A first-year teacher. I think a first-year teacher, you need to, I think what the first and foremost thing you need to start with is student-led conferences. I would have to say that is the biggest thing. I did not start with that first, and I wish I would have started with it because it made it so much harder to get to know my students. Student-led conferencing is something you could do every couple weeks, but it's really sitting down and looking at the objectives that you have in a unit and listing out maybe your biggest assignments that you have in that unit and helping your students create goals, knowing about their academic success in prior years through the testing, maybe that's done at the school, interims, for instance, at NHA, and asking them, what do you want to get better at? Like, where do you want to be? And then once you kind of understand that, ask them, getting to know more about them. These student-led conferences are huge. They tell you a lot about their personal life, where they want to be and who they are. And when you start to understand that, that's when you can start facilitating a student-led classroom.
And that, to your point of, having these relationships with them, these one-on-one relationships, kind of taking these relationships a little bit deeper than just, calling on Sally, just, this encounter of one-on-one while within the class of the group. But when you have one-on-one with these student-led meetings, that's got to just build on itself with
Mhm.
the relationship you have with them, with the engagement in the classroom, with them feeling valued. Um, is that something you do weekly, monthly,
So
yearly?
what I do with student-led conferencing is my goal is to do it at the beginning of the year, obviously. And then I try to do it at the minimum at the end of every unit, unless I have something big coming up, then I will do it too. So if I know I've got like M-STEP or PSAT, things like that, I will do another one in between, because I converse so much with my kids now because of that relationship I built, that it's ever going now. So now it's just maintenance, truthfully. But I would say, as a new teacher who is starting this and you don't really know how to do it, you may want, I would say it would be a very good idea to trial and error this every week, but not with all students every week. Maybe categorize your students into groups of 3 or 4 and be like, this week I'm going to talk to these 3 or 4. Next week I'm going to talk to these 3 or 4. And you choose the same day every week, and the day that you're doing it during whatever time period it is, purposely, again, it's all about planning. Everything is planned out. Purposely plan it around a time in which your students are doing independent work, whether that's with partners themselves, so that you can step away to do 10-minute conferencing with each kid. And then you're only out for 30, 40 minutes. You can do it right outside the door in the hallway. The door is cracked. And if you have set up an environment where the kids know they need to stay on task, then they will. Of course, you got to give yourself grace as a first-year teacher, or even a first-year teacher doing this, because it is not going to go the way you planned. They are going to get riley the first few times, and you just have to remind them in a kind way. I expect more of you. Use empowering words. Don't tell them no. Explain to them why. Help them learn how to be different. Don't just tell them to be different. And it flows.
What's interesting is, kind of at the beginning of our conversation, one of the questions I asked you was, how do you start understanding what your students need in a classroom, what your students want in a classroom, how they can thrive in this learning environment? These one-on-one student-led conversations might, and I may be wrong in this, but is that a good way to start building these relationships, understanding when I meet with Johnny or Susie for the 5 or 10 minutes that I have scheduled, really allowing them the opportunity to say, this is what I need in a classroom to thrive. This is how I learn. I can't sit by the window because I'm easily distracted. Do these meetings provide the opportunity for you to really fine tune what your classroom as a whole needs?
Yeah, it certainly does, especially because those kids who do like get off task, as you just said, they can't sit by the window because of this, or kids who need to be in the front row because they can't see the thing right, or they can't the board right, or they can't sit in the back row because then they're looking at everyone's computers. Knowing that is helpful, but that's also really helpful, obviously, because if you've got all of your parts working, then your machine can work. And that's how I kind of envision it, is my students as gears inside of the whole engine that works. But it's good too, because I feel like when you have those one-on-one conversations with the kids at the beginning of the year, and they do tell you a lot more in confidence when they are sitting there. Then what I love to do is come back to the whole class and say, like, this is what some kids want. In talking to everyone, this is what they said. This is what another group of people said. This is what some people disagreed with. Then you see people start talking because they're like, I'm not alone.
And, I just think of myself, 8th grade Scott. I'm probably not sharing a ton of, some personal things with my teachers. If and I was the kid that was distracted when I sat by the window, I'm probably not telling my teacher that. But to your point of, sharing that out with the rest of your classroom, and obviously not saying individual kids' names, but, some of the kids don't want this. that to me, as someone that doesn't like talking about my feelings or emotions, and especially eighth grade Scott didn't, that would make me open up. That I
Mhm.
knew that, my teacher's having these conversations with other kids and they're voicing the same opinions. And, I think that's an important first step to the student led environment that, it's easy to say we're providing an environment to allow our students to open up. That's great to say, but there's a lot of eighth grade Scots out there that just don't want to share stuff with their teacher. And I think
Mhm.
I really like this idea of meeting one-on-one with students and then speaking in general terms to the class, that some students like this, some students like that. That's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
And, I think that, like I said, I don't, I have no data to back this up, but I can't imagine eighth grade boys are the most sharing of characters. So I really like that idea.
Yeah.
How long have you been a teacher in general? Not necessarily just at Knapp.
So NAP, this is my second year, and then a year and a half prior to that out in
So
Virginia.
if you had to go back to day one of your classroom, you're standing in front of a classroom for the first time, you just finished your student teaching. This is your first teaching job by yourself. What would you tell yourself about student-led environments?
About student-led what?
Student-led classrooms, environments.
What would I go back and tell myself? Yeah, do the student-led conferencing and do not go into the classroom not smiling.
Mm,
Yep.
I like that one.
They say that a lot, be the strong one. Don't smile. So uninviting.
It's funny you mentioned smiling. We did a podcast a couple months ago on creating relationships in the classroom, and one of the teachers that we were interviewing about it, and is actually part of the podcast, where she said when she was in student teaching, one of the teachers at the school she was student teaching at said, "Don't smile until Christmas," and that to me was, just kind of blew my mind a little bit. Like, what? What does that mean?
To me, that speaks fear, right? We're teaching our kids to fear us. It speaks controlling. They see it as, a block in front of us. These kids might not want us to know everything about them, but they want to know everything about us. They are skeptical. And why not let them see who you are?
How important is it being vulnerable and how important is it being vulnerable and honest with your students when you're trying to build this environment of student-led classrooms?
Extremely. I can't say it enough. Us as teachers, we want our kids to show us respect. But it goes, okay, I'll say it this way. Every day in classrooms, we sit there and we're like, if we want kids to understand how to do something, we have to model it for them. We have to model it for them. We have to model it for them. Okay, so we model and we practice, and we model and we practice. Why are we not modeling and practicing how we want our classroom to be? If we want our children to be vulnerable with us and tell us what they need and what they want and be self-advocates and tell us when they're confused, I have to do that too. I have to say I messed up. I have to say I was wrong. I have to say I overreacted. I have to say I'm sorry. What can I do better next time? Lots of conversations. And I understand that a lot of people come by and say that shows weakness. I disagree. Last year, I would have agreed. This year, no. You got to know as a first year teacher, I think that's the third thing that I would say, student-led conferencing, smile at the door, and then Oh, I just forgot my train of thought again. That's fine. But that idea of modeling what kind of emotion you want in the classroom, I think that's my idea. If you want your kids to be a certain way with you, you have to be that too.
And, you know, one of the things when we started this conversation that I did not expect to kind of be a factor in this student-led environment was, it sounds like there needs to be a lot of trust from the students to you, that they have to trust you in order to build this environment. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to hit on? I mean, we just knocked out an hour and a half. I don't know really where the time went.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Everything that I had ideas for talking about, we just organically.
And that's
talked
what,
about.
you know, and that's what I like. And I'll be the first one to tell you, there's an hour and a half of recording. We'll probably cut it down to 25 or 30 minutes. That's just kind of where we see. In your sales days, you'll probably remember knowing your audience. You even reference that. Any longer than that, the listenership kind of falls off.
Oh yeah.
Where am I going with this? Well, thank you, Ms. Simpson. This is something that I think, you know, student-led environments is something that a lot of teachers want to have, but I think sometimes don't fully understand what that means or even how to start. So, you know, thank you for kind of taking us into your classroom and showing, you know, how this environment works in your classroom, and, you know, maybe just as importantly, how to kind of start building this out. So, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. It was great. And then if people have questions, of course, in NHA, just send me an email. I'm always willing to help. I love giving people confidence as well too. I don't want to see any colleagues struggle. So I'm here to vent to, or to just work through things.
To vent to. I like that. That's something I think is unique with teachers.
You said what?
That's something I think that is very unique to teachers. I don't know of a ton of marketing people I can call and say I'm frustrated. I think that's very specific to teaching. And that's something that's really cool to me. I'd like to tell you that I wish it was like that with marketing, but I'm also the first one to tell you I'm not going out and seeking marketing people to talk to. Like, teaching is something that's really cool in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It's very, very uplifting.
Yeah, it's cool. Cool. Well, we will get after it. Normally kind of our process is like 2 weeks and we'll have something finished, because we are now editing the one we did last Thursday. I don't know how we got 2 weeks behind, but hopefully eventually we'll kind of get caught up. You know, and you can take some time to think about this, and Haley will send you the finished copy, if you will. But if you like it, I think you can kind of see now this is not anything that's super intimidating or to prep for or anything like that. If there's other topics you want to hit on, let Haley know.
Okay.
I would say let me know, but I'm the least organized person in the world. Haley, I feel bad because it's not Haley's job to coordinate a lot of this stuff, but she just does because she enjoys.
But she does, yeah.
She's organized and stuff like that. Like, I sent her a message today, and she's in Florida, and she's technically working, but I don't want to bother her too much. But I was like, "Yo, what are we talking about today?" Like, normally you're on these calls with me, and you're kind of prep me, like, "Hey, this is who we're talking to. This is," and after a while, everybody kind of runs together. But yeah, if there's other stuff you want to talk about. How would you classify NAP? Is that urban? Fully, or is it
I would say urban.
So I'm curious what you think about this. One of the podcasts I want to do eventually is, I don't know how to say it, and this was something we would have to polish up before we get there. We did a podcast on creating relationships in an urban environment.
Okay.
We did it with an African-American male.
Yeah.
I want to do a podcast on how do you connect with these students when you don't look like them, when you don't come from the same background. He grew up 10 minutes from the school. Like, he's like, and that's one of the things he brought up to me off camera. He goes, I hope you were able to take some of this from it, but I grew up across the street. Like, this is my community. And he was fantastic. But I do want to hit on, I have, very pale skin, red hair, and glasses. I have nothing in common with a lot of these kids. How would I connect with them?
Yeah.
And that's one, I don't know if that happens at NAP or for you particular. I don't know. It's just something I'm always looking for somebody that wants to tackle that one, because that's not an easy one.
It definitely happens at NAP a lot. And in fact, I would have maybe even another girl, if you're
Okay.
looking for another person at the school here who would love to do this one too. If we could do like a threesome, sounds terrible. Like a threesome, but she's big into this. She's in the diversity group at the school. I'm in the school improvement team group with our principal, Angie, and then she's in the diversity group. So I'm married to a Hispanic, right? So this is really important to me. I've got illegal family members in the state, so I come from a different perspective as well. So diversity is huge. Like my example of explaining to her, my student, about how no one's taking that word away from you, right? I know, being my best friend telling me that they use that word endearing and offensively to each other. So you do have to have knowledge to be able to combat those. So, but then she would also bring in a great perspective as another white woman who is married to an African-American man. It means a lot to her at this school too. In fact, she's had to even deal with meeting with parents, white parents, who are frustrated that her emoji on her Google Classroom had a Black Lives Matter shirt on it. So like, it's a big deal. That would be a really good one to do.
It's I played basketball from the time I was 3 until even into college. But so I was in that world, and I grew up in a farm town. I think we had one African American kid in our whole school. But the tournaments we were playing in we were playing in Flint a lot. We played in Detroit a ton. So it was just that different environment. To your point, and to your students' point, in that environment, it can be tough to figure out when you can and can't say it.
Yeah.
And when you turn on Jay-Z or T.I., it gets even tougher. And that's a delicate balance.
Yep,
And
it is.
And that's got to be even tougher for my white English teacher to tell me when I can and can't say it. But yeah, it's one. My cousin is a teacher in Memphis, in one of the worst parts of Memphis, and she's a very pretty, blonde hair, blue eyed. Her dad owns a business. He's got a membership at the country club in North Chicago, and she talked a lot about her first 2 years. She just could not connect with these kids, and now she's got a nice rhythm going, and she never wants to leave. But it was hard the first couple of years connecting. It's like, you don't look like us. You don't talk like us. You have nothing in common with us. You've got a Kate Spade bag that's probably more expensive than, and it's just like, it's two different worlds. So yeah. Like I said, maybe when you see it, maybe you'll hate it. I don't know. And you think, I never want to work with Scott and Haley ever again. I don't know.
No.
But think about it. Like I said, if it's you, if you want it to be her, that's one that I think we're probably gonna have to handle with some kids' gloves, and maybe I prep a little more than I did for the rest of these. But that's one I really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, if you think of other stuff, you can email me too. But let us know. We're always looking for, because kind of the dream of this is, we just met with marketing. We're building out a site. We want to have as many of these as possible for the start of NTS. And I think you're episode 11. So if we could get to 15 or 20, and Haley's writing 2 or 3 blogs on each one, and basically just vomit this digital library at 400 new teachers of, hey, there's these podcasts, there's these blogs, there's these videos. Like,
yeah.
So we are always looking for people that want to do it and with topics. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. I was going to say too, when you guys are done editing it, you don't even have to send it to me now, but I would love to have just the original one too. I just think it's fun to have it. So.
Oh, the one that's like an hour and a half?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I know you're going to edit a bunch out of it, which is fine, but
I could probably upload it to YouTube and send it to you. I'm just wondering how we get a file that big to you, but we'll figure it out.
Okay, no, that's fine. I just thought
We've
I'd
got an
let you know.
intern starting soon, so they can figure it out.
Homework to do. All
Figure it out. I don't know how I want to do it, but yeah, we can get that over to you.
right, cool. That sounds great.
Cool. Well, you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too.
I'm at that point where the coffee's wearing off, and I don't know
Yeah,
where I'm
me
going
too.
with answers. You have a good night.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, God. It was great. And then I'll think on some things and yeah, I'll just email you on some things I think of.
Cool. Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thanks, Lexus.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.